the trend of home-built systems. There are certainly legacy systems that we have in place. We have home-built systems that institutions have invested in and find it difficult to move away from. Home-built systems sometimes don't have the nimbleness that you'd like to see with systems. Sometimes they are very thinly staffed so that the ownership and the understanding of the system is vested in a single person. So we find that sometimes those home-built systems are challenging for an institution, but they haven't yet made that decision to move beyond that home-built system.
So one of the examples I think about with a home-built system is maybe you've built something for your internal proposal routing, or you've got a workflow system for approving invoices, and how does that relate? And home-built systems, I feel like it's very much a cultural thing, what makes more sense for your organization. But it does present problems of its own. So.
And if a home-built system works, that's great. But oftentimes we find that over time, the home-built systems start to begin to not be able to keep up with where the institution needs to go. And so that's just a matter of looking very carefully if you have a home-built system. Oftentimes we go into institutions and we find there's disconnected systems. So a lot of the areas have put systems in place, and the systems are very effective for the function that they are to handle, but the systems don't connect to one another. So what we end up doing as we are in sponsored programs is that we're finding we need to pull from different systems. And that pulling, it can be inefficient, it can be a time drain, and it also can create some errors.
Right, and so when they're disconnected, and also the other thing that I think about is how many times are we duplicating data entry? Which is another scary thing in and of itself, because that's another thing that we think about with these disconnected systems or home-built systems, and even some, commercial systems. Sometimes that's a problem.
And sometimes an indicator is if you find there's a lot of shadow systems in place at the institution. That may be an indicator that something's not working either with an existing system or the disconnect that exists between systems, so people find they're needing to manually track information. Defining data, oftentimes we're finding is an issue, that data has grown up over time. There hasn't been a strong definition for the data, so that as a result, the data itself is being used differently without really accurate results for the institution. So if you're using data to make decisions, it then becomes that your decisions may be made off of faulty data, or simply you may not have the data you need to make the decisions. Anything on that?
No, but it really is a little bit scary. I'm thinking about Oregon State University's data warehouse. And I think about that point right there, where the way we define something as simple as PI name could be different in multiple different, I call them modules. So thinking something as simple as that, and it's because modules were added on because of our financial system, and we didn't think about using that consistent nomenclature or how we name a PI, if you will. And you learn how to deal with it, but is it an optimal solution is one of the things that I think about.
Well, and you've raised a really good point, because if you have data that has grown up over time, and while you may have some experts who can manipulate the data and understand that, you may have more casual users of the data that don't understand that that distinction.
Yes.
And so then, again, they may be pulling data that's inaccurate or really not directed to what they think that they're receiving.